Welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, where we unlock the secrets to level up in all areas of life. I'll be interviewing some of the world's top performers in their fields so that you can uncover and learn the strategies that have led to their overall success and apply it to your own life. Cash, you've been seen with Dave Asprey, longevity expert and good friend, Impact Theory's Tom Billio, TEDx Talks, and much more. How important is it for you to share your purpose with the world?
Well, the word is how important it is. Its purpose, man. It's like there's a time where you're working for profit, and then there's this epiphany happens, and you realize what your role is and why you were brought here. And when you have that, purpose trumps everything, man. So yeah, it's what I live and breathe it every day.
Yeah. Cash, how can understanding your genetic profile help busy CEOs and executives optimize their health and performance?
Well, there's a lot of systems to talk about. There's the mood and the brain, there's sleep, there's diet, there's disease prevention, understanding what's coming and how to prevent it. And then there's hormones, which is so misunderstood. But even if we start with just the mind, a CEO being able to understand how they perceive the world and why they may be overly reward seeking or underly reward seeking and what causes them frustration, why are they burnt out, why are they stressed? Why can three people enter the exact same scenario and you have three different outcomes? It's because their neurochemicals are processing different. The genes that instruct the processing of those neurochemicals are different. And so their perception, their reaction, their emotional outcome, their intellectual outcome are all different. And we can predict all of that genetically.
Yeah. Cass, can you explain how DNA testing can fast track health and longevities for those with demanding schedules?
So it's getting rid of all the one size fits all and trial and error answers. If somebody who their body is their business, right? You need to maintain this thing that you walk around in. I work with a lot of Hollywood celebrities, pro athletes, etc., that are already getting the best of everything, and they want to push to the next level. And so essentially, it's if you know exactly how to always make the right choice because you already read your human instruction manual and you know how your body is receiving and perceiving everything, you won't make a mistake. So we're already designed as a physical structure to live to 120 years. The human body is a physical form. And what prevents us from getting there isn't what we forgot to add. It's more like not following your innate wiring, right? If you look at people from Okinawa, Japan, they live in their local city, their habits are the same. They live a long time because they're doing what their DNA wants them to do. So it's about reading that, understanding it, and adopting habits that are designed for you.
That's awesome. I'm a big fan of the Okinawa, Japan, and longevity, and obviously the habits that they perform. And it's definitely linked back to like obviously connection with people, but also their habits. They grow their own vegetables, they eat organic, they're not having the herbicides and pesticides that we all have in the Western world as
Yeah.
well. Cash, what specific genetic markers do you look at when creating personalized health plans for high achievers?
So the first place we always go is the mind and nervous system. Getting some, because if you're stuck in fight or flight or trauma or stress, very hard to fix anything. The body is very binary. There's fight or flight and there's rest and recovery. And you don't heal if you're in fight or flight. So we always deal with that first. Then we deal with sleep, the genetics of not being able to fall asleep, waking up at 3 a.m. and just not having the same quality the rest of the night, or sleeping through the night but still feeling fatigued. Those are all very different things, and genetically we've understood them. So from the circadian rhythm to detox pathways, etc., all of what happens in your sleep. Then there's everything about diet and nutrition. So would you decide to become a vegan one day and then realize that 2 years later you feel really sick and you don't realize that you actually don't make the enzymes for certain plant foods or your gut is not designed for that? There's a very famous biohacker that I dealt with who was on a keto diet and they were doing everything right and couldn't understand why they didn't feel well. That's because they don't metabolize saturated fats effectively, and it was driving a bad insulin response in them. So everything around diet, then it's around the cellular health, so detoxification pathways, inflammation pathways, mitochondrial function, the actual health of the cell, which is where everything starts, not having inflammation, so aging slower. Then disease markers. So how can I predict where my hardware is not doing well, and therefore, if I do have inflammation, which disease is going to manifest first. So not only do I address the cellular health and preventing the inflammation or autoimmunity, but also address the hardware that isn't doing well so that the disease is very difficult to get. And the last area, and this is so important, especially for women, where this area is completely broken when it comes to Western healthcare, is hormone health. So everything around fertility, libido, hair, skin, body type. You work with guys that are high performing that want to go to the gym, but they hit a plateau. And a CEO wants to be able to get the maximum ROI from everything they do, right? I should get the time that I put into this, I should get the absolute maximum return for the time I put in. So if you're not exercising the way your body is designed to, you're not getting that ROI and you're going to get stuck and feel it's not working. But all of a sudden you make some tweaks and you thrive. So those are the big areas. And I believe that if anyone optimizes all six of those, you're going to get to 120 with good health.
100% agree with the rest and recovery. I see a lot of CEOs actually wake up at that 3 a.m. mark because of the high cortisol stress.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we have high estrogen, high cortisol, we're having insulin spikes because we're grabbing the wrong foods during the day because we're too busy. Obviously, these are all our fat making hormones, and you see people busting their bum in the gym and they're doing diet plans, but they're not seeing a shift or any results from what they're doing. So they're not seeing that output. I think definitely genetic testing saves time, money, and energy. It's like the fast track, like jumping on a jet plane in first class rather than swimming and to Hawaii yourself. So how does personalized DNA testing differ from traditional approaches in health and wellness?
So traditional approaches are about symptom masking. Go do whatever you want, eat what you want, drink what you want, and one day when you're sick, you go to the doctor and they have to diagnose and prescribe. Here's what your pain is called, and here's the pill you take to not be in pain. But guess what? You're probably going to have to continue taking this pill for most of your life. That's traditional healthcare. Uh, Functional genomics is, why did you get sick? What did you eat? What did you breathe? What relationship were you in? What happened with your hormones? What happened with your detox pathways? So if we can understand why, that's seeking true health, because you're now eliminating the root cause. If you know it's broken, you can fix it. And then all of a sudden, you're no longer managing something, you're removing it. Or if it hasn't happened yet, preventing it.
Yeah. It's actually, I know it's the same in America, Cash, but in Australia, usually like even blood work is tested on a population of usually 90 unhealthy people, and it's always
Yeah.
linked to some sort of pharmaceutical drug. And like you said, it's always going to just be a band-aid and mask that pain and get someone into the pharmaceutical industry, so they're continually buying those supplements where the root cause could be fixed a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Cash, for someone who values time, what is the most significant advantage of using DNA to guide their decisions?
Well, I went from working out 5 to 6 days a week to working out 2 to 3, and I have not lost any body muscle, or my weight has not changed, and I have the same strength at the gym. I've learned exactly what my body needs, and I only do that, right? So I can work out less and have the same fitness level. I also, when it comes to managing teams and working with other people, I now understand who I am and who they are at a cognitive level. So where I used to have friction and conflict with certain partners, I just now understand how they think and how I think, because we've all done our genetics, our whole team, right? And so let me give you a simple example. When it comes to dopamine is a chemical that allows you to experience reward, pleasure, when you get satisfaction from anything. And there's a gene called DRD2, which determines how dense the dopamine receptors are in your brain. So how much what intensity level do you feel when that satisfaction happens? Then there's a gene called COMT, which is a protein that's responsible to remove the dopamine from your brain, because eventually you need to get back to normal. So I have very low DRD2. I don't have enough receptors, and I have a very fast COMT. So I feel things way down here and it's gone very quickly. So for me, highly reward seeking, never enough. Next challenge, next challenge, next challenge, right? Bigger, 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 riskier, riskier, riskier. One of my co-founders has the exact opposite. The maximum intensity of dopamine receptors and the very slowest possible clearance. So he's just happy. He's content. He's satisfied all the time. We'll go into a meeting where I come in there with crazy anxiety saying we got to do this and this and this and this and this. He's like, yeah, don't worry, got it taken care of. And the next thing he's looking up vacations online because he's so satisfied. He has no need to pursue. And so that used to create a lot of conflict. And what we realize is that I'm about driving it forward. And he's about the high quality work that needed to happen. So let him go binge on the thing that he enjoys, but he has to delegate the rest to other people. And then when we had, so the amount of time we saved and things getting messed up and screwed up, just knowing what our superpowers were and only doing that, it completely changed everything.
That's amazing. Cash, how can high achievers prevent future health risks using their DNA data, but also set generational health in their family?
Yeah, so one thing is I think the way you ask the question is part of the answer is help yourself first and then help others. And part of the work I did was I learned everything about DNA will tell me what's wrong. It will tell me what to recommend, but how do you actually get people to do it? So I spent some time with a guy named Dr. BJ Fogg, who runs the Stanford University Behavioral Change Lab. So he's a guru when it comes to human behavior. He wrote a book called Tiny Habits, which was a bestseller. So in that, I learned that when somebody reaches a certain level of habit formation, where their identity starts to change, then the people around them start changing. They go from implementation to advocacy. So when you can learn, it goes from, yeah, I started working out to I go to the gym. It's that no, I can't see you right now. I have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
There's a very different feeling there than I'm starting to work out. So once your identity changes, then it becomes who you are and the people around you start to change. Now, knowing what those habits should be, right? Knowing how do you, as a busy CEO, actually have a schedule that allows for these things? How do you not feel guilty for not being productive, which is another thing that slows CEOs down in terms of giving back to themselves. So once you create that structure, the culture changes. And for you, your family, your kids, your employees, it becomes a thing that everybody does.
Yeah. I think it always, like you said, to start with busy CEOs, it's always taking them from distraction to presence still,
Yeah.
and then linking their identity. I always, and as you probably know, like most people live their whole life in pain. They'll live their whole
Yeah.
life in some sort of pain, even though deep down they know what to do. They know what actions to take, but they lack making those powerful decisions. And it's always linked back to our identity and what we tell ourselves in our subconscious. Cash, what role does DNA testing play in reversing aging, and why is it particularly important for busy executives?
So aging is when your cells and your DNA within your cells get oxidized and they experience wear and tear from environmental factors, stress, inflammation, right? So if you know how to prioritize where your biggest exposures are, that's where you get the biggest ROI. So one big challenge with aging is we all think we're supposed to do everything. Every podcast, every supplement, every food, every treatment, red light therapy, cold plunge, like all of it. And you don't need all of it. In fact, if you're doing all of it, you're probably going to age faster
Yeah.
because it's too much on the kidney, too much on. There's some people where I have to tell them that their thermal regulation doesn't match cold plunging every day. They're actually going to start to gain fat and get sick from it. Whereas some people go ahead, do it every day. You're genetically designed for it, right?
Yeah.
So when you start to learn who you actually are on the inside, and you start to eliminate the exposures that you're not designed for example, I'm missing a key gut detoxification gene. So there's a gene called GSTM1 that protects your gut from toxins in your food. I don't even have the gene, completely missing from my code. So that instruction doesn't exist, therefore that job doesn't exist, therefore the same food that I might eat in a lunch with a colleague, they're fine and I'm sick. So just knowing what those exposures are, what part of your code is not working, and not doing those things, or fortifying the biology and supporting it because you know that bit doesn't work. So I know that this bit in my stomach doesn't work, so I can add aloe vera and bovine collagen to support my gut lining. I can add, activated charcoal to help me bind toxins in the food. So I have to have different habits than somebody else around this thinking of what do I eat. And you have to do that with all your habits, and you become the best version of yourself.
I think that's really important when we talk about habits, because we're all 1 in 4 trillion. Um,
Yeah.
and everyone like really can't take on 50 habits. You know, if you give them
Yeah.
50 habits, they're not going to be able to implement them to their life. So it's about like identifying the key areas that they need to work on and just adding habits into their life. And I think the way I look at someone's health and longevity is how they live their day. Like, what are you doing in
Yeah.
your day? Like, are you waking up having lemon and pink salt, which is obviously good for your digestive system,
Yeah.
hydrates your cells, is good for your body's pH level, also helps with digestive enzymes in your pancreas. And it's just little tiny habits. Instead of having the coffee, doing that, that's going to make a big difference into your day. It's also going to help you with mental clarity. You're going to be more hydrated and lots more. Cash, how can understanding your genetic profile help in managing stress and improve mental resilience?
Oh yeah, that was a big one for me. I didn't realize that when I was sick, that I was burnt out, and it's because I'm so reward seeking that I'll say yes to too many things. And what I thought was me being a warrior, accepting the pain, was actually my brain being so reward seeking that it would take on more than my body could handle. And so where I was burnt out below the neck, I was wanting more above the neck. So what does stress even mean to an individual? How much can they handle? Is it that there's some genes around binding trauma, and some people just hold on to emotion more. And so their perception is going to be more of an emotional stress. There's some genes that activate how much things mean and the weight to things. So it's not about how you feel, but it's how much of a burden the thing feels like. And that could feel like stress or a blocker. Whereas the guy right next to you doesn't have a problem and you're stuck just because of a gene. There's some genes around the clearance of neurochemicals, and some people get stuck in a reward-seeking activity for too long, and they experience anxiety and they experience fear of missing out, and those things stress them. So there isn't one single path, but I would tell you that if I were to have a, you know, 5 hour VIP session with some kind of CEO, the first 2 hours is usually about the mind, and then the 3 hours left is about everything else.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like it all starts in the mind. My formula is like mindset, then your motivation, then using the means that you have at your fingertips. Because when you have the mindset and you're motivated, you're going to use the means. And then it's about making mistakes, like learning how to make mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen, and it's about getting back up on the bandwagon and
Yeah.
knowing failure is good for you. And then it's like then it leads into like that maintenance. So it just becomes a habit. You just do it unconsciously. Like you get up and you stop at the red light, or you get up and have the lemon and pink salt instead of the coffee. So it's just all those little things.
Yeah.
Cash, my life formula is discipline increases self-worth. Self-worth multiplied by healthy habits results in more energy. More energy combined with self-worth leads to a greater productivity and fulfillment in life. And if time
Mm.
is our most valuable resource, do you agree?
Yeah, amazing. So self-worth, this is something we've had to work with people on, because somebody coming in for a illness repair journey usually has an identity that doesn't equal self-worth, right? It's usually insecurity. And so when you take all of what you feel like is your problem and you realize it was actually your superpower and you were just in the wrong context, and then that value that you never gave yourself starts to appear, like the way I'm wired, like I told you with the low dopamine and the very fast clearance of dopamine, the clinical answer for that is that I'm prone to depression. But I'm not depressed, right? But I have been. So if I'm void of high challenge, high reward, my baseline, where somebody else's baseline is I'm going to read a book and relax, my baseline is depression
Yeah.
because it's very hard for me to feel. But I could also be wired for addiction.
Yeah.
Because when I do finally seek that and enjoy that pleasure, it's hard for me to not continue. So it's not necessarily a binge, but I need it every day. I need it on time. I structure things around it. I will cheat on stuff to go get it, right? So that's pleasure. Or there's reward, which is I need satisfaction through achievement.
Yeah.
And so I say all this because what I thought was the world sucks and I can't get satisfied and I have no self-worth was actually I was put here to be a warrior and to build incredible things. And part of building incredible things requires high reward-seeking behavior. I was just in the wrong context. So discover who you are. The same thing that you think may be a burden may actually be your superpower.
That's awesome. Kasha, I really appreciate you, brother. Like I've watched your YouTubes. I learned so much from you. I feel like I already know you. But again, man, if I can ever do anything for you at all, please reach out. I'm happy to help. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you found the discussion useful. Our goal is to positively impact the well-being of 1 million people's lives just like you by sharing the experience and knowledge of some of the world's top performers. So you don't miss out on any key strategies to help you succeed, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And if you think you may know someone that would benefit from this episode, join us in our mission of impacting 1 million lives and share it with your friends.